All right, hello everyone. Happy Thursday. All right. And happy July. June went by so quickly. I can't believe we're in July already. I hope everyone had a wonderful Canada Day. If you are tuning in from Canada, happy pre-4th of July. If you're any of our American friends dropping in or catching us on the replay or watching this on YouTube. All right. As per usual, I'm just going to get you guys up here on my computer so I can follow along with comments. Hello, Marlo. All right, so we are going to revisit something you may already have in your stash and haven't pulled out in a while. So I thought it might be kind of fun to pull out the Nuvo Drops. And then I'm kind of going to combine this with our new summer challenge. And that challenge is going up in the, hi Marlo, in the Scrap Shots Paper Crafting group, Facebook group. But I'm going to share that here with you because I thought, you know what, this kind of works really well for what I'm going to do with these Nuvo Drops. All right, how's everyone's summer going so far? Are you guys off for the holiday or back at work today with just the middle? It's always strange when the stat holiday falls in the middle of the week, right? Yeah, and we've got Stampede Week starts for us here on Friday. So that's how our July starts around here in Calgary. Awesome. So let's get started. So I pulled out my Nuvo Drops, what I still have. You can see this one's been around for a while, partially used. So not sure if you guys have some of these. I'm sure you've got at least a bottle in your stash. But these came out quite some time ago. Tana came out with these, the crystal drops, which are clear. They've got glitter drops. Then they also came out with, I probably don't have all of them. I know one kind was called a stone drop. We've got this one here that's called vintage drops. Super, super fun product. And I think the rest I have are all crystal or glitter. Yeah. Hi, Andrea. So let's kind of take a look at it, the traditional way that we started using these Nuvo Drops. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit and try not to zoom in too much. Oh, let's see if I can do it. All right, there we go. Ooh, in and out at the same time. That's impressive. Usually I forget how to do it. All right. So I've got this card that I previously created last week, and actually I'll share some of the cards I made from last week. Oh, Marlo says, I only have a few and I barely use them. Okay, well, maybe we can get you to pull those out after this, Marlo, because I've got some other ways that you can, and other things you can do with these other than kind of the traditional way that we all started using Nuvo Drops. So last week I shared with you these Syberia press plates, and we looked at this one in particular is what we played with last week, and that's the Lush Peony Bouquet. And I've also got this one on hand, which is the Floral Trio, and that's kind of what I'm using with all these guys here with this card. Okay, so you can catch, it's still up on Facebook, last week's live, and it's going to go up on YouTube here shortly. And I kind of go over how I created this particular look, which is like a embossed, kind of a 3D embossed look. We just used our press plate as an embossing plate, let's call it. And then I went ahead and used the coordinating stencil to ink that. Okay, so here's how we all kind of, when we first got our Nuvo Drops, used them back in the day. And I think, are these the same color? They might be. Let's see, what's this called? Carnation, pink carnation, yep. All right. So I'm going to squeeze out a little on my mat here just to make sure that's flowing. Just going to make sure I'm in camera here. And then we just use these to create your own little custom enamel dots. Okay, and so there's a little technique as far as squeezing them out, give a little swirl. Okay, and these guys are self-leveling. So you're gonna drop your drop, and let's see, we're gonna do another one up here. So super easy. Okay. And I'm just gonna make that a little bigger. There we go. Okay, so that's how we'd embellish. So I'm just gonna set that aside. Actually, I think it needs one more drop down here. So the traditional way, put that on your project and then set your project aside somewhere where you're not going to put something on top of it. Okay, so that's adding them directly to your embellishment. Now, what you can also do is either with your craft mat here, or this is just a piece of extra acetate, you could also create enamel dots out of your Nuvo Drops. Kind of different sizes. We just set that on here on something like a craft sheet or little non-stick sheet like this, and then you let these dry. Okay, and then you can pop them off this and then add them to your project with glue. So you could go to town, depending on all the different colors you have, and make a whole bunch of enamel dots. Okay, so that is kind of the traditional way that we all started using Nuvo Drops. Now, there are some other things we can do with these guys, with these drops as well. And in one case, if you haven't used your drops in a while, you may find that the tip is kind of, this tip here has gotten clogged. So I've come across a few in my stash where, I mean, I suppose you could soak it in hot water, but I've kind of gone back and forth with a pin and have not been able to necessarily unclog that tip. And I had one here beside me, and I don't know where I put it. That was actually quite clogged. Anywho, so we are going to use these. Oh, there it is. So I'll show you, for example, on this guy here, you'll notice I'm squeezing quite hard and barely anything is coming out. Okay, so the one thing I want to tell you, that if you're finding that you're having a hard time getting your drops out of here, so maybe they've just kind of thickened up a little, or it's gotten clogged in here and you can't get this unclogged, do not try to like force it really hard to squeeze your drops out. What I have had happen to myself is I've squeezed like so hard that I've essentially popped that entire applicator out, and then you get a big mess all over the place. Okay, so if your tip is clogged that badly, you can't get it unclogged, and you're thinking, well, oh boy, this is just all for, you know, all going to be wasted. It is not going to be wasted. So what we're going to do is bring in a piece of cardstock, and I would suggest using a bit of a heavier weight cardstock for what we're going to do with these. Okay, and so this tip is a little bit clogged, so that's fine. I'm just going to pull that off. Okay, I'm going to grab I've got a paste tool. Okay, so you could use a paste tool, you could use an old gift card, or a palette knife. Okay, and I'm just gonna add, I'm gonna squeeze a little bit of kind of from the top here. So I'll squeeze some of my liquid out. I'll just pop that on for now. And then I have this one that I actually completely removed the top because I wasn't getting anything out of it. Okay, and I'm just gonna lay a little strip across here, across the top. All right. And then I'm going to, and if you just kind of set your bottles upside down like that, maybe you're going to do a whole bunch of these at once, then that keeps your liquid at the top of the bottle. And then I'm going to lay another strip of this green. So you can just play with your favorite colors. You can add more than 3 colors. Just something that coordinates together. All right. And I'm just going to bring this in down here, my little craft mat. And I'm going to grab my scraper tool and I'm just going to treat this now like paste. And I'm just going to drag that down. I'm going to start all the way back at the top actually. I would like it to be nice and thin. Okay, so I've just spread that paste out and we're just going to set that aside to dry. And I've got a little bit more left on here, so I'm just going to drag that across here. And try to get that all onto this paper. All right. And so I can set that aside, and now I've got a sheet. Once that dries, I can die cut out of that. I can use it as a background. Let me just grab a baby wipe. Forgot to grab one before. Okay, just gonna wipe that off really quick and off my surface. Okay, so I'm gonna just let those dry while we just kind of play with our drops in another method. But if you do this nice and thin, it's going to dry fairly quickly, and you can heat set it as well. I did try that out, and then I'll kind of show you what we're going to do with them after that, after they're dry. Okay, so super quick, easy way. If you want all one color, you can do the same thing. If your applicator is clogged, then you can kind of almost use this like a paint. I did try kind of thinning it out with water. That did not work very well. It kind of seemed to disappear completely. So I wouldn't recommend thinning it out with water. You can try applying it with a foam blending tool. However, oh, there's a deer outside my window. Oh, just walking along outside. Looks like a young one. Cool. Sorry, I digress. I did try it with a foam blending tool, but it was a super light, is how it came out. It was almost difficult to see the color. So maybe if it's a darker color, then it might work out okay if you use a blending tool. But I didn't get the best coverage with that. Okay, so let's bring in, if you've got a nice paintbrush, this works really well as well. And you can get multiple layers down on your paper as well. So we're going to use this kind of lighter green. This is called Peppermint Candy. And I'm just going to pick that up with my paintbrush and just brush that back and forth here. So you're going to get kind of the texture of the bristles. I'll just hold that up there. And we're going to add another color. And then it thins it out kind of nicely. So it's not going to take too long to dry. So really nice way, fun way to create some kind of mixed media backgrounds essentially. we're gonna have to use all of this. So I'm gonna actually brush the other way as well. Okay. All right. Let me clean off my brush. And we'll let that dry a little bit. I might hit it with the heat tool because I want to come over the top with another color. Wipe off my craft mat, so maybe I'll do that. Let's see. Oh, I've got to plug it in. 1 second. 1 second. All right. So as I'm drying this, I'm going to talk about the summer challenge. We usually run a monthly challenge in our Scrap Shots paper crafting group. So if you're not a member of that group, please head on over there and request to join us. We'd love to have you. And our summer challenge, typically we run it from all of July and all of August. And this year we are calling it the Summer Bucket List Challenge. So one of our design team members, Jen, has come up with a whole bunch of mini challenges, I'll call it. Okay, so this will be up in the paper crafting group. Just after the live, I'll put it up. But she's got all sorts, she's put all sorts of cool things like combine your oldest and newest stash in one project. So your oldest in your product and newest. Document your travels or future travel plans. Learn a new scrappy technique and use it in 2 ways. So you could practice something from this live today. So on and so forth. And there's a total of 8 mini challenges. If you complete all 8 mini challenges, then you're going to earn an extra 3 entries into the draw for a $25 gift card to the Scrap Shot store. Yeah, it'll be fun. So there'll be inspiration projects posted all through the summer from the design team, but join us. It's really a lot of fun, and it's really cool seeing how people interpret all these various challenges. So we'd love to have you join us there. So I decided I'm going to call this is going to meet Get Messy and Pull Out Some Mixed Media. So we're using our Nuvo Drops in a mixed media fashion. So that fits with that. And then we've also got, card makers create a layout makers create a card. I guess I'm kind of cheating because I do both. So this is an easy one. I make layouts, so I'm making a card today, and vice versa. All right. So that is our summer bucket list challenge. So please do join us. The more, the merrier. We want to have as many people play along as possible. All right. So this is our first layer, which was the Vintage Drops Peppermint Candy. So I want to add a bit of a sparkly layer to that now. So I'm going to use this glitter drops, and this is all essentially leftover Nuvo Drops in my stash that had not dried out. I actually went through it quite a while ago, and I'm just taking the top off because it's not squeezing out very well, which means it's probably clogged a little. And if you're just joining us, if you try to squeeze as hard as you can to get your Nuvo Drops to flow through here and it's clogged, this whole top will burst right off and you'll have a mess all over the place. And as I said earlier, how do I know that? Because I've done it, and not once, not twice, but multiple times. Didn't learn the first time. Okay, so I'm going to grab my paintbrush again, and now I'm going to come across horizontally and just brush that on. Okay, so you can see our first layer was this light peppermint candy. I just want to keep this nice and soft. And I'm just going to layer that all the way across. So this is going to be a background for a card. Obviously as well, you could die cut out of this If you've got some layered floral dies, be really pretty to die cut your florals out of this. Actually, maybe I will do that with this. I kind of have two. This is the second panel because I've already tried this. So I think I might keep this one and die cut it with some layered florals and then build a bloom. That would be really pretty. Okay. All right, so that's adding now a little glitter layer. So I'm just going to set that aside to dry. Again, you can heat set it. We just heat set the first layer. But I'll just bring this in to show you because I added one more layer of the green of the vintage drops here. So you can kind of see we've got that blue in the back, and then there's another thin layer of green over the top. So this is the one, this one's fully dry. So we'll just save ourselves some time from doing another layer. Okay. And now we'll turn that in. We'll turn this background into a card. But before we do that, let's see if our first layer here that we used that feels pretty dry. So this is the one we laid our Nuvo Drops out here. I just squeezed them out of the bottle and then scraped across my scraper tool. So let's set that aside. Let's just try this. So if you were here last week, as I mentioned earlier, we played with our press plates and we used them, in the traditional way as far as better pressing with them. We foiled with them, and then we also used them as an embossing folder, essentially. I'm going to call it an embossing die. So let's do that again. Okay. But what we're going to do with this one, same as we did last week, I think I want this at the top. We are going to essentially emboss this into our background and also add ink to it. All right, I'm just going to grab my sandwich here. So to do this, you're going to need your A plate, your B plate, the embossing mat, okay, that's E, and then the adapter plate, which is the hard mat. That's your D plate. So this is what you would need if you're using a Spellbinder 6. The sandwich is probably similar, but the pieces have different names, would be my guess, if you've got a big shot. Okay, so I'm going to place my paper here, okay, and the reason, and then I'm going to ink this up and put my plate right down on top. Okay, so I'm kind of putting it together a little bit. Backwards is not really the right word, but in a different order from what I showed you, because I want to be able to place my plate where I want it on this card front. Okay. And so using your drops this way, because we're treating them like a paste. Okay, so you're not going to get perfect coverage, and that's okay. We don't need perfect coverage. We're not looking for that. That just adds to kind of the mixed media vibe. Or with something like this, if you make artist trading cards, you could trim them down into that size. Okay. So I've got that on here. I'm making sure that my the pressing part or the sharper part of my plates are going into the embossing mat. Okay. And so the reason I'm kind of setting this up in essence kind of from top to bottom is so that that plate doesn't shift. Okay, so I've got everything in there. I'm just holding that together, and I'm just going to step behind me to my die cut machine and run this through. All right. Okay, and now this is what we have. So we've got that really pretty background there, just a light background. And then our plate, press plate, has embossed that image, and the ink is all pressed in there. Now I am using a pigment ink. Okay, so this is the Altenew Obsidian pigment ink. So I'm not going to touch this because I want to make sure it's going to dry. Now I did test this earlier, if I can find where I put it, and I did test it 2 ways. Oh, I don't know where that is. So I actually did sprinkle embossing powder over top of this, clear embossing powder, and heat set it. But I did do one where I did not add embossing powder, and it did dry. So even on this kind of smooth surface, it did dry. And it did not wipe off after I had let it sit for a bit. But if you do want to add the clear embossing powder, you can see it just adds that nice little sheen to the black. So the black is a bit more crisp with the clear embossing powder over top, and then it's just a little bit more muted. Okay, so we used our drops there to create the background. Okay, so let's bring back in our panel here that I previously made, and we are now going to turn this guy into a card. So I'm just going to grab my mat here because I decided, all right, based on this image, and again, this is this Floral Trio better press plate. Okay, and so as I just showed you how I embossed this with the plate, I did the same thing with this, just with a navy ink, and then I colored it with colored pencils. Okay, but we're going to fussy cut this out to use this focal point on this Nuvo Drop painted, I'll call it, card front. Okay, and again, something like this would be perfect for die cutting a sentiment out of. If you die cut your sentiment out of this and it had a shadow as well, you die cut the shadow out of black, that would be beautiful. But I'm going to add a little bit of purple to kind of coordinate this the purple in the flowers here. And so this is some Altenew Be Grateful, it's called. And I've got this Pink Fresh blending brush, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm just barely tapping that in there, and it's picking up just the perfect amount of color. Okay. So that's just gonna pull everything together. All right. Now, of course, if you've got a really steady expert hand with Nuvo Drops, you know, they work great to create borders. Just little bits of, you know, enamel dot borders kind of thing. You can add a lot of detail. You can add detail to flower centers, all of that. Okay, so I want this to, I'm going to pull out my Lawn Fawn scalloped, what's this called? Lacy rectangle stackables. Oh, wait, maybe not. Oh, yeah, that'll work. I just want to get a nice little lacy edge. I'm not sure if that's going to work, actually, because I think this die is a little bit too large. I think I might have to go with just a plain old rectangle, because I don't want to lose, let's see, if this Pink Fresh one, this blanket stitch. I want to keep some of that purple on there. It doesn't have to be all purple, but oh, this one will work. Yeah, that'll work. Just gonna pop a little bit of tape on here so that doesn't shift on me. or at least too much. When I run that through my die cut machine, bear with me, I'm just going to step behind here for a moment. Toss that over there. Grab my plates here. Just talk amongst yourselves while I'm, I put tape on here and it's still shifting. I might have to put new tape. It might not be sticky enough. Kind of try to use it till it doesn't have any sticky left. But you're kind of taking that may or may not work out. All right. Just gonna run this through my machine. All right. Whew. These plates I'm using are quite warped, but I basically want to use them till I can't use them for anything anymore. All right, so there is our little, I would have really preferred that lace edge, but I think that if I would have cut it with that, we would have ended up with kind of little bits and pieces that didn't, or that weren't cut all the way through, and then it would bug me. So even though I don't like this as much, it's going to work. Okay. So then we're going to, oh, perfect. Just a nice thin little black edge there. I might actually trim this side a smidgy. Yeah, I'm going to trim that edge a little bit. It was just not quite, like a smidgy off as far as where it lined up on that die. So I'm just going to even that out there. There we go. Oh, I'm much happier with that now. Okay. So, pretty. Okay, so I'm going to add some glue to that so that can there's some tape left on here. I'll just rip that off. All right. Any big vacation plans this summer? Or just hanging out, taking it easy? I don't have any big plans at all. All right, so we'll just line that up so I've got a nice little edging of black. And I'll get my, where did I put my, my little stamp block that I used to hold it down. I'll just use my phone. That works. It's heavy. Okay. So while that, we give that glue just a little bit of time to dry, let's finish this off. So I'm going to fussy cut this guy. And even though I'm the world's slowest and worst fussy cutter, I actually don't mind doing this just because when you impress the image with the better press plate, it kind of leaves you a nice little edge that's a little bit easier to follow. Okay. So I'm just going to trim all this off. And you can see that these blooms have kind of a mixed media look to them as well. There's a little bit of ink transfer where I didn't clean the plate off great, but I don't mind that. I think it just gives it a little bit of a kind of a shabby chic sort of vibe, which I'm okay with. Whoops. All right. And then I'll show you something else I did with these press plates too that I've thought was quite fun. And then I'll show you all the finished cards from last week. I did photograph them. I just haven't had a chance yet to get them uploaded for you. All right. Okay. Fussy cutting away. All right. Normally I'd be hating doing this, but like I said, it's actually a little bit easier because I've got a little kind of a raised edge that makes it easier to sort of keep it trimmed at a somewhat similar distance from the edge. All right. Did you guys do anything special for Canada Day? I did not. Well, I shouldn't say that. We had company over. My daughter has a couple of really good friends. They've been friends since elementary. So grade 1 and grade 2. So we had them over and their parents. So that was fun. As parents were kind of saying, why did we wait till the kids were adults to get together? Because we always have a really good time. Lots of good conversation and laughter. But that was fun. But I was tucked in bed by 9:45, so I assume there was fireworks somewhere. I don't have a clue where they might have been, and I didn't hear them. But then with Stampede coming here, there's always fireworks down on the grounds. So we've got 10 days of fireworks coming up. Okay, just about there. Okay, and I'll try to get, I don't think I'll get all the way inside here. I don't want to chance it of accidentally cutting something off. Okay. And on this bloom, when I did the inking, I just used a navy dye ink. I could have used black, but I thought, you know, we'll use that navy, and then with adding the purpley colors, that kind of keeps it a little bit, it's a little softer looking. Okay, so there is our bloom. So let me just get these scraps out of the way. And there is my adhesive. Okay, so now I'm going to add some, to decide if we'll put it up here. I think kind of like that. Not sure. We'll figure it out. I'll just flip that over. I was playing, you can see here, I was playing around with the Nuvo Drops, kind of adding color like within the depression. So this is the back side of that press plate embossed piece, but I didn't really like it. It's too difficult to, there's not enough detail. Any detail is kind of all hidden. So I think it would work on like a larger solid image if you wanted to kind of give it a look of as if it'd been kind of painted with enamel paint. But for this purpose, it didn't work out all that great. But I had colored this before. I wasn't sure if I was going to use it, so I thought, oh, you know what, I'll just try that out on the back side. If it works, great. If not, I've got that other side that I pencil colored. All right. And then there's a very skinny little area here that was kind of flopping around, so I want to make sure I get some tape there. There's some foam adhesive because that's going to be a weak point. We don't want to go through this effort and then have it rip on us. All right, I'm going to add a little piece down here. You could glue this flat as well, but I find because it's got it's got some dimension to it already, it's almost easier to stick it down with foam adhesive. All right, and 2 more pieces. I'm gonna cut that in half. 1 there, 1 there. All right. Ooh, okay. So before I decide where we're going to put that, I'm just going to grab a sentiment. And so these were those sentiments I was using last week as well. And it's we don't have these in the shop to my knowledge, but they can be ordered in. So it was the, what's it called? Classic Sentiments from Syberia. So I think I'm going to have to dump these out. Because I think I want a big thank you. Now we've got a thank you in gold. I think I prefer it in black. Let's see if I have one. I thank you for being you. No, I want the bigger one. I might have used it already. Let's see. Even though you can tell I've press plate and die cut these a number of times. There we go. Yeah, we are going to use that one. So I might put that up just a little bit higher. And let that sit there. So we're going to put some foam adhesive on this guy as well. And I probably need to, that part's going to line up there. Need to make sure I've got this area on the end. And then along the bottom there. All right. And along here. Okay. So let's peel this off. Cooperate. I always say this peels off easy and then it's not. Okay. There we go. Should use a pokey tool. All right. So we're just removing the backing from the adhesive. Good old Altenew foam adhesive. All right. Whoops. I just pulled the whole foam square off. Hang on. Stick that back down. There we go. It's a little easier, then I can hold that down and pull that off. All right. And that's the sentiment. Okay, so I'm just going to add a bit of foam adhesive, or of liquid glue, pardon me, which I always do, even when using foam adhesive. what this will do is, A, it gives me a bit of wiggle room, so it gives me a little bit of time to slide it around here on my card front. Plus also, because this card base is Nuvo Drops, so essentially, you know, a type of paint, we might need a little extra glue, liquid glue, just to make sure that stays in place. So I'm just going to eyeball that. That looks good. So we're going to add this guy too. Oh boy, it is all the user, not the backing. It really does come off easy. Honest, it does. Okay, so our liquid glue, and then I'm going to put a little on here because this is going to sit on top of my blooms. Okay. All right, so I'm going to place my phone over top there just to give that a little bit of time to dry. Okay, and so we're just gonna push that aside for a moment, and then I'm gonna show you guys the cards I did, the finished cards from last week. So I don't think I finished them. So out of all those different, I actually have a few, I think I have 3 or 4. Oh, before I do that, hang on. Actually, I'll show this after. We'll do that. So out of all those, I think we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards. And then I still have like 2 or 3 to add color to. So this was from last week, and that was using the Lush Peony Bouquet. So I made a little gatefold card. Okay, then this was from one of the foiled panels. Okay, then we've got one here that I pressed it into white cardstock and then inked it and then fussy cut the large blooms, and then I layered it over top of the panel that we stenciled during the live. Okay, and then here we've got a panel. All we've done is 3D embossed and then added the sentiment and some black gems. Okay, here's the panel that we hot foiled and then added the inking during the live. And then I took a portion of the, is this the whole, let me see here. No, I think I just took, I cut a piece of foil in the same color that I foiled the image in, and then just used that rectangular hot foil plate and added it to white cardstock to create a matching background. Okay, then again, here's another one we have with the image depressed or embossed into white cardstock, and then we've added the inking with the coordinating stencil. And then here is one that is completely hot foiled. So super easy. So look at all those different looks. All right, so let's bring this guy back in. We're going to add him to a card base, or her, I guess, however we want to refer. Okay. Perfect. So I'm just going to add my glue. All right, and let's line that up. And there we go. So I could come in and add some iridescent gems. I'm not sure if I will, maybe, but you can see there we've got, if I just tip that, you can see the sheen of the Nuvo Drops. Okay, so that's a combination of this Nuvo Vintage Drops and these glitter drops. What's this called? Blue Lagoon glitter drops. Okay, and then of course I've used the Floral Trio press plate for these pencil colored flowers. And then I wanted to show you before I say goodbye, we've got, well, I've got, maybe not we. Let me use the back of this. Oh, except it's wet, Rosie. Here's some white cardstock. 1 second. So I just wanted to show you, here we've got another kind of, you know, essentially a shabby chic. This is the same flowers, okay? So from this Floral Trio, except this is the back side. So this was actually, I watercolored with some shimmer watercolors and then tried to kind of emboss it after I'd stamped on it, and it didn't work so great. So I just flipped it over, and then I flipped over the stencil and added all the color with the stencil, and then just some navy ink over top. So another cool way to use these press plates. Okay, so just to recap, okay, we used our Nuvo Drops in the traditional manner, just creating our little drops here, and then created some on a sheet of acetate as well. Okay, we added, in this case, 3 colors of Nuvo Drops and just used a paste tool. So treated them like paste. All right, and then after the fact, I went in and inked that press plate and put that right through. And just to show you here, that pigment ink dries really nicely on here. Okay, or this was the example I showed earlier. This was an earlier one that I used that pigment ink and then coated it with clear embossing powder. So you can just see it makes that black a bit more crisp. So you can do that with this as well. That extra heat, added heat to emboss doesn't harm your paste or your Nuvo Drops at all. Okay, and then we've got our layered background here with our Floral Trio. Awesome. Oh, Marco's going to the, peony farm. Oh, that sounds cool. Thank you. Awesome. Well, thanks guys for hanging out with me. Now don't forget to go to the Scrap Shots paper crafting group on Facebook. If you haven't joined yet, join so that you can play along with our Scrappy Summer Bucket List Challenge. Okay, and I'm going to get that challenge posted there just shortly. So you'll be able to take a look and do some planning so you can make some time to play along with us. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for your comments. Yeah, really nice to kick off the summer with you guys. And I will be back next week. Not sure with what yet, but just keep an eye on our socials and we'll let you know. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday, everyone, and a great weekend ahead. Take care. Bye.